Hi, love. Hello, and welcome to Co-Creative Healing Journey. My name is Greta. I am a healer, and I'm also apparently in a really, really good mood because we are talking departure. This is the second week of the theme of departure, and I'm going to bringing through soul messages here. And then over on my Patreon, I bring through the energy work. So we had the energy work from last week, and then this week we're going to be continuing on with that. I always like to remind you guys, if you're participating, to keep doing the energy work on this Tuesday, right? So every single time there's a video here on YouTube that is part of the healing process, there's also healing that goes along with it. I think it's a fine way to do it. So I have the cards here. Let's get to it. Let's see what Spirit wants to talk about. We have got Aloha Ke Aqua, blessings of the Supreme Being. We have got Lena, what must be shall be, departure. Indeed. Ooh, Mayu, some of the galactic heart. Beautiful. Yay. Oh, God. I'm going to get so touched. Okay. We have this energy here, which is just so, so incredibly beautiful. And we have the two mudras. And we were talking about the fearless mudra last week with Lord Ganesha. And here we have the mudra for openness. So we have both elements, the fearlessness and the openness. And so when you see this energy, blessings, Ke Aqua, Spirit wants to talk about departure from a different level that is much more cosmic, high level cosmic order. And the message is that, my love, very often Spirit talks to me about you and me and people like me, and talks to us about the God's compassionate response. And so it came from once where I was watching a documentary about the genocide, a genocide war on Yemen years ago. And I was watching this just horrid documentary, and it was so stark. So it was about 10 years ago, 2014, around there. And I started to cry, and I was crying, and I was crying, and I was crying. Actually, it was 2016 after that. But anyway, I was crying and crying and crying, and I was so my heart was aching, maybe even broken at that time. And I said, Spirit, help us, please help us, at that level of humanity, please help us. And Spirit said, I am helping. And I said, but how? And Spirit said, you. And it was a plural you. It was you and me and people like us. And Spirit said, you are my compassionate response to the state of this world. Got me. And so I don't know why I thought I could not cry when we were going into this energy. I'm so touched because that's the point. We are God's compassionate response to the state of the universe. It's the notion also of we are the ones that we've been waiting for. And Spirit wants to tell you that in departure, there is a central element to know that in your heart, in who you are, what you love, what you value, what you feel called into, what you feel not responsible for, but response able to, something that where you can do something about it, you can take it on, you can bring change, you can bring evolution, you can bring improvement, you can bring healing. All of those things have been seeded in you for purpose, and Spirit inspires you for purpose. Spirit has you aspiring to be certain things in the world, do certain things, live in a certain way, create in certain ways for purpose. All of it has purpose, and there is a grander design to who you are and how you have been made. And Spirit is saying divinely made, blessings of the Supreme Being. You, my love, you are divinely made. You are perfectly made exactly as you are. And whatever we perceive as flaws and whatever we've been conditioned by the status quo to perceive as flaws are really arsenals in Spirit's army and Spirit army of love, and its ongoing spiritual war unfolding on the planet. Spiritual war being, of course, the supremacy of love energy seeking to manifest itself within all realms of human reality. And you are a part of that, you know, whether you consciously think of it or not. Spirit is inviting you to start thinking of yourself in that way, but most importantly, to understand again that the status quo is going to teach you that maybe your fearlessness, your compassion, your kindness, your generosity, your sensitivity, your sense for beauty, your innate sense for justice and fairness and equity, that those things are wrong. They're petty, they're small, they're childish, they're unnecessary, they're unprofitable, they are out of alignment with the way that the world works or needs to work, or you know, whatever stories the status quo is going to bring out in order to keep you in conformity with its own agenda and ways and outcomes. All of those things you don't need to believe in for a single second. And Spirit wants to remind you that they're not true. You're made like that for design. And there's a tremendous amount of transformation that comes when we each depart from the status quo, make that heart centered, value based shift away from the status quo to say that I'm going to be me in honor of and deference to the supreme being that has created me to be exactly as I am, and that kind of departure can really empower us to be ourselves in the world and to bring those gifts out, that sensitivity, that kindness, that compassion, that generosity, that strength, that power that we have inside. We can bring it out in the world because we are not expecting it to stand on the leg or on the value of me, just me. It's not just me, it's not just Greta, it's co-creation. It's the Greta that Spirit made to be Greta, to be Greta in this family, to be in Greta in this tribe, to be Greta in this country, to be Greta in this world, and so on. And all of us having those multi-level dimensions attached to who we are. There is purpose in all of that. There is a design in all of that, and Spirit wants us to value it. Now, we have Lena. What must be shall be. And so Spirit is saying that you see these flowers here or plants, they were a tree once upon a time, or a seed rather. They had been a seed once upon a time. And they grew into this now. And what must be shall be. A seed grows into the greater version of what it is supposed to be, and you are the same. So whatever has been seeded inside of you, it will find its way out into the world, because what must be shall be. And there are two ways in which that unfolds. There is an inner dynamic, again, where you are being inspired from inside to be a certain way, live a certain way, create a certain way, to do things in a certain way, to unfold in a certain way. You're being inspired to be a higher version of yourself, continually being lifted up into a higher version of yourself. And that's one way in which this dynamic works. The other way is an aspiration, that as you grow and as you evolve and you're being more inspired, and again, you're growing into the higher version of you also, you're looking to the world and you're seeing things that you can be, do, live, and create in the world in a different way. And there's also that continual ascension to it. So that, for example, maybe you look at the world and you go, oh, a lot of people are starving. Let me donate this can of food that I have. And then you grow and you evolve, and maybe you went somewhere and you learn how to plant food. Oh, let me plant food to help people. And then you're growing and you're evolving, and you have your own business and your own connections and so on. And you start, let's do a co-op, and we're going to plant a whole bunch of food and then help more people have food and come out of food insecurity, for example. And then again, you're moving, you're growing, you're evolving, and maybe you come to a place and you're like, okay, that's it, ending world hunger. That's me. That's my thing. That's my calling. That's my aspiration. Let's do it. So the aspirations also grow and evolve in scope, but also in terms of value, because it goes from, for example, I'm giving to someone needy, someone that I'm perceiving as needy and who may objectively be needy, to let me teach them how to farm. Maybe let's work together so that you can learn how to provide for yourself. Let me empower you. Let me help empower you. Let me participate in creating a system that empowers all, and so on and so forth, so that there's the evolution also of your aspirations in the world, and the evolution of your aspirations in the world are happening in convergence with the aspirations, and the evolution of the world itself, right? So that what you aspire to be and to do and to live and to create in the world will shift and evolve as the world itself becomes freer, bolder, also more skilled. There's new technologies, there's new possibilities and things, and it's like a co-creation. Yeah, it's a dance. It's a convergence of people, places, and things that are continually going to be yielding opportunities along your path for you to live out that fundamental nature through inspiration from spirit, but also from through aspiration in the world. You're always going to be called into that, because that's who you are. That's who you are. And so what must be shall be. And it doesn't matter if you're giving that can of food or you are solving world hunger, you're still going to be living out that core aspect of you. And that's all anybody can ask for you in spirit. That's certainly all that spirit can ask of you, right? It's like the utmost of being in alignment and living purposefully. Now, finally, we've got Mayu, Soma from the Galactic Heart, it says. And this is a card that talks about the galactic milk and being nurtured and fed by the universe. It's very much Divine Mother energy for those of you who are in to you the divine is goddess, that are, or maybe working the divine feminine energy, being supported through the divine feminine energy. It's coming through very, very strongly in this instance. And so this is you being nurtured. It's like a lot of us have been on that path where we've been looking to the status quo to nurture us. So that could be spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, also financially, with opportunities and jobs and occupation and clients and everything working within the status quo. But that's not where it is. And Spirit is telling you that in the biblical sense, the space of your provision has been accounted for, but it doesn't lie in the status quo. It lies in the departure. You are not someone whose energy is set up to show up and feed the status quo, like just pumping energy into the status quo, keeping things same old, reproduction, mindless participation in how you spend your money, what you buy, how you show up in the world, what you participate in, contribute to. You're not someone whose energy is going to blossom and thrive and unfold through those dynamics and at that level. You would just remain a seed, but you will be fed in your growth and your in development, in alignment with those convergence that I was talking about, in how the world itself is growing and evolving and becoming. You will be fed through participation in that, aligned participation in that, through you being in your function, being in your purpose, you really living out again your inspirations and aspirations. That is where you will get all of this energetic, spiritual, mental, emotional nourishment that you want, that you need, and that you deserve to thrive at an individual level. It's just like that. You're just made like that. And so it's like the friendships, the romances, the work life, the family life, the passions, the hobbies, the adventures, all of those things for you lie in the departure, in having and embodying and living out a path of departure, because those are going to be the most fulfilling. That's the kind of relationship you want. That's the kind of parenting you want. That's the kind of creativity you want, the kind of work life you want. It's not going to be in the status quo. And that doesn't mean you have to be without. And it doesn't mean that you have to, burn down the city, burn down civilization. We talked about that last week, because the status quo and departure are value based, but they're gradual, right? Maybe you have to depart completely. Like for some people, departure is going to be polyamory. For others, it's going to be a true what's it called, committed. It's not just the word committed, but it's like two people. I forget the word. It's escaping me right now, but a true version of that, which is more rare than we think. No cheating, no worrying, no stressing, none of that. But that's going to be your path, and that will be as much a departure from the status quo as polyamory could be or would be, right? Because also polyamory could just be the norm for so many people in different levels of society, different cultures, for example, right? If it's even if it's called by another name, it's not that big a departure. That's what spirit is saying. And so we can really look at the surface of things and think, well, because I'm just, being an yeah, I'm being alternative. I'm fighting the status quo, but then we're doing the same thing, and that's where I'm going to leave you. I was just watching today a podcaster or on YouTube. They place their podcast there, and they do a lot of politics. And in these times, I watch it a lot to hear about Gaza, to hear about Ukraine also, and just a change in world politics. And the Niger, Burkina Faso, and Burkina Faso and Mali were up today. It was really interesting to hear about. So politics in general, right? And so it's a alternative podcast, and they pride themselves on it. Yeah, we're stick it to the government, blah 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 blah. And then today they had a guest called General Douglas McGregor, and I just listened to him, and something's off. And I've seen him around a bit, and so I go and read his Wikipedia. General in the U.S. Army, he was for the Iraq War, said it should have happened 10 years before, incredibly racist. He said this, he said what, he said what, he said what. That was my experience of his Wikipedia page. Calling people in inner cities in America a subset of humans, that's not departure. That's not departure. And even if we can, go into these spaces and feel like we are being alternative and we are, again, sticking it to the status quo, we're being silenced, we're being this, and that. It's not an actual departure. It's just more of the same under a different guise, in a different shape and a different form. And so there has to be that value-based shift. That's what makes it a departure, because it is calling love forth from you in a very, very different way. And part of my departure is also being less fooled by things and being less gullible. That just because we're in an alternative space, that has been my path, just because people say that they're alternative, or they say that they are very loving, and they say that they don't want the status quo, all of that stuff, I've come to find that that's not exactly true. I've learned that the hard way many, 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 many times, and now I know to Wikipedia it. So I'm leaving you on that anecdote. I hope that it serves you. I am sending lots of love. I hope that this entire video served you. May you be blessed always and in all ways, and I will be seeing you around. Bye, love.